Hey, Vikes. Welcome back. Hope you had a good weekend. One of last week's assignments was to write an introduction to the Margaret Thatcher rhetorical analysis essay. So I had a student who wrote their introduction, but they weren't exactly sure whether they had a good introduction or a great introduction. I went through and looked at it and kind of have some results here. So I wanted to share that with you, and hopefully it'll help you see what the difference between a good introduction is versus a great introduction. So let's take a look at it here. So we have the introduction here. I'll go ahead and read through it. And you can see that I've highlighted some things that I'll show to you, and you can probably already guess what I've highlighted. Saying goodbye is not easy. Any loss is hard to bear. Some tend to crumble and cannot stand the pain of sending off a loved one, while others try hard to stay strong and reflect on the positive impacts and memories the person has left. Margaret Thatcher chose the latter. On June 11, 2004, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain delivered a eulogy to the American people in honor of former United States President Ronald Reagan, who was not only a famous president but her friend. By comparing the expectations of the people and the accomplishments of Ronald Reagan, and by providing examples of Reagan's contrasting differences between him as a man and as a president, Thatcher undoubtedly conveys her respect and admiration for Reagan. So she has her introduction here, and you can see that I've highlighted different elements of the rhetorical situation. This is what you want to make sure that you are covering in your introduction. So she's identified who the speaker is, Margaret Thatcher, not only who she is, but her role here, former Prime Minister of Great Britain. So we know a little bit about who this person is and why she might have some credibility to speak about a former United States president. Then we get some context. We don't know where this was delivered, if it was printed in a newspaper, if she gave a speech, but we do have a date, June 11, 2004. So we do have our context. She also gives us the genre. What type of speech is this? It's a eulogy. So we know that she's going to be thinking about a person who is recently deceased. That tells us a little bit about what she might include in this speech. Who's the audience? To the American people. So she's the former Prime Minister of Great Britain. She's not delivering the speech for Britons, but she's delivering it for Americans. What's the message or the subject? It's in honor of former United States President Ronald Reagan. And finally, what's her purpose? And the word you can't see there behind my head, I don't think I can move that there, is conveys, and she's conveying her respect and admiration for Reagan. So that is her purpose there. So you can see that she has 6 different elements of the rhetorical situation there. So if we go back to last week's video from Mrs. Velitis, and she showed us what should be included in a good introduction versus a great introduction. So a good introduction has to include at least 4 of the components of the rhetorical situation. It has to include a thesis, and it's approximately 2 to 3 sentences long. Depending on the prompt, you should be able to pump this out in about 3 minutes. And it's not that difficult to include. The prompt is going to have all the information of the rhetorical situation that you need. You just have to figure out what it is, and then develop your thesis, of course. So a great introduction is going to include at least 5 of the components of the rhetorical situation. So there's a little bit more depth there. It will naturally include a thesis. It's going to be approximately 3 to 5 sentences long. Now, it's longer because you're doing at least one of the following. You're referencing the broader context. You're incorporating some sort of style in your writing. It's not just straight, let's get the facts out. You're including a scenario, perhaps, something that might be similar to what's being presented in the text that you're reading. And it includes some sort of striking statement, something powerful that leads off the essay with a bang, so to speak. So you can see I've highlighted some other elements here. First, I've highlighted the elements of the rhetorical situation that we looked at earlier. And we saw that she included, well, we've got speaker, so there's one. We've got context, more speaker, genre, audience, message, purpose. She has 6 elements of the rhetorical situation there. So she's definitely on the great side as far as that's concerned. She has her thesis down here. By comparing the expectations of the people and the accomplishments of Ronald Reagan, and by providing examples of Reagan's contrasting differences between him as a man and as a president, Thatcher undoubtedly conveys her respect and admiration for Reagan. So she has her thesis there. It's 6 sentences long. So this isn't short. This probably took her more than 3 minutes, but then the whole assignment that day was to just write the introduction. So most of you were probably spending a little bit more time trying to make it right. In this opening, she references the broader context. The broader context in this case would be the context of a grieving nation. So she's looking at, when you're grieving, what are some options that people might have? And she presents 2 options. Some people might just be able to, stay strong and reflect on the positive impacts of that person. And some people, they can't stand the pain. They can't say anything. And then she also delivers here, I think, a striking statement. Margaret Thatcher chose the latter. It's very simple, and it follows a long sentence here. So syntactically, if I'm going to use that word, this is a pretty powerful statement there that gets to the heart and serves as a nice transition to basically the rhetorical situation that she includes in the next sentence that sets up her thesis. This is a great introduction. She was unsure whether she had done a good one or a great one, but you can clearly see she includes 6 elements of the rhetorical situation. Her introduction is 6 sentences long. She is referencing the broader statement, also including a striking statement, or she references the broader context and she's including a striking statement. She does have her thesis. She has a great introduction. So if you haven't gotten to the introduction part yet, go ahead and do that. I'm going to have an assignment here later today about writing conclusions for this particular essay, or just writing conclusions in general. Remember that this week, it's a 4-day week. Friday is technically a snow day. So I will have an assignment on Friday, but that assignment is going to be a blog post. I'll post it probably Thursday night or Friday morning. And then you can enjoy a 3-day weekend. I hope you enjoyed this last weekend, and go Vikes.